Hey everyone, this is Clint. I have a video I need to make. Yeah, we'll get into it. So many great things today. So many great things. It's interesting that the comic book industry is looking so grim, and yet at the same time, the comic book industry is looking so great right now. And specifically, I'm talking about crowdfunding indie comics, ComicsGate, and I'm not the only one taking notice. We're gonna get into this. Comic book pros are taking notice, and this is changing everything. Things are changing. And so, yeah, I posted this on Twitter today. My next project with Charlie Snogans is a must-have book, and this is not an understatement. This is a must-have book. Everyone's going to want this. I guarantee it. And so this thing's gorgeous. So this is the first time I'm showing this, posted on Twitter. I'm going to stream with Charlie later tonight. And, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit and probably show you a little bit. We'll look at the pieces more closely, and Charlie can tell you some of his thoughts on everything. So this has been great. So yeah, this is the book. I'll tell you a bit more on the stream tonight about it. So there's that. Downcast has still been rising and not falling. It's been amazing. Thank you everybody that's been backing this book. So great. We're gonna hit 34,000 soon, I would suspect. I had several backers yesterday come in, so it's been great. So yeah, looking forward to that. All right, here's the content for the video. I saw this in a really roundabout way. She who shall not be named. I'll just go Renfamous. Everyone gets mad even when I say that name. She's blocked me on Twitter a long time ago. I blocked her on Twitter a long time ago. But for some reason I saw this guy retweeting Renfamous, and I had to go see exactly what it was. And I guess, I don't know, she's got beef with Jason Lewis, colorist, because he did coloring for a kid's book or something. Scooby-Doo. I don't really fully get that. So this might have been the reason why she's upset. And I think this is the way that I look at this is just a guy with an opinion. He's looking at the industry from an inside perspective. He's a colorist. He gets work. He's looking at it, and he's also hearing probably things behind the scenes, rumblings of people that are, kind of concerned about the current state of things, and that they're actually thinking about moving over and into ComicsGate. All right, so here we go. He's got some info for you. It says, I know I'm going to regret tweeting this. That famous last words, right? I'm going to regret tweeting this, but here is a quick PSA for those comic pros who are trying to make nice with ComicsGate now that the industry is circling the drain. You have to remember the following 2 points. P.S. I'm not trying to argue, just educate. As always, if you say something publicly, especially when it's like this, people are going to respond. So I'm going to respond to it as well. And he's kind of taking an interesting route here in his explanation. Okay. And that interesting route is he's trying to sound dismissive of ComicsGate, and yet at the same time he's saying some kind of practical things on the other hand. So that's probably why people like Renfamous are upset about this. All right, so point 1, Jason Lewis says, once you strip away all the politics and other BS, CG's entire platform is comics were better in the past. I'm going to stop you right there. Now, I gave up a long time ago trying to define what ComicsGate is or be any kind of thought leader on what ComicsGate ought to be, because you can't. Someone is always going to scream louder than you and tell you that you're wrong and you don't belong. How many times I've heard that? It's been ridiculous. The truth is, you just have a bunch of random people on the internet that agree on some certain number of things. Comics were better in the past has not ever been anything that I've heard, in particular as a platform or as an argument. It's just not true. You're going to get a bunch of people that were really happy about a specific time period. I hear a lot of people that love 90s comics. I'm in the crowd that dig 80s comics a little bit better. Have there been newer comics that have been fantastic? Sure. Yeah, there have been. But generally speaking, in recent years, the way that the comic book industry, Marvel and DC in particular, especially Marvel, have handled making comic books have not been great. And so there are a lot of complaints there. Also, making politics, you can't strip away the politics and other BS. The politics and other BS to me is everything. But again, I'm not gonna speak for anybody, because I guarantee right now someone's already typing and telling me that I'm wrong, and I have no right to even comment. So whatever. But that's the thing. It's the internet. The moment you think you can control it, you've lost. You can't. You can't. All right. So we're gonna get more into it. Comics were better in the past. Okay, we'll set that aside. You can debate how far in the past and what exactly makes them bad now, but their message never strays too far from that. Everything else is just noise. Again, totally disagree with that. I mean, almost totally. Yeah, a lot of people thought the comics used to be better, but are you saying then that comics are only better now? Like they're only getting better? Because you could argue that point. You'd be wrong, but you could argue it. All right, point 2. The popular CG YouTubers follow the edicts of their audience, not the other way around. Think of them as elected officials. The most popular typically are the ones that most accurately echo the grievances and concerns of the large disenfranchised comic customer base. This is a loaded question, and one that's been very interesting point of discussion that I've thought a lot on. And he's not completely wrong, in my opinion, but he's also not completely right. Let me explain. Social media influencers have a ton of power in the world in general, all over. You can look anywhere, especially Instagram. It seems like social media followers can control all sorts of things. They can influence people to do something. But social media influencers cannot influence people to do everything. You can convince people that are already interested in comics and already think that they're, Marvel and DC are putting out garbage. You can convince them, you can influence them to back a crowdfunded comic book because they're already inclined to do so. Now, could you influence that same group of people to, let's say, all vote Democrat? We'll go there. All vote for the Democrat Party. Could you convince them to do that? No, it's too far. You're not going to be able to do it. So the way that social media influencing works is, you're just basically finding people that already have a set list of interests, and you're suggesting one other thing to them. Social media influencers can have an awful lot of power if you have the right kind of thing, but they can also die just as quickly. It's true everywhere. So to say this is a specific to ComicsGate thing is kind of ridiculous. It's true everywhere. And it's always been true of your own customers already, which is exactly why so many people revolted and left, because in your comics, you were trying to influence them to move toward a certain kind of affinity toward identity politics. I'm not saying specifically Jason Lewis, but many people in the comic book industry were trying to do that. And you can't deny this, because I've seen so many interviews from so-called SJW pros that say just this. They want to convince people that there's a better way. They want to educate people. They always use that terminology. You've been saying it's an open secret. Everyone's been saying that they want to do that, but then you'll get all this pushback that it's not the goal at all. It absolutely is the case. It's what you've been trying to do. So you shouldn't be surprised if social media influencing works outside of the comic book industry. And you shouldn't also be surprised when you find out what the limitations are, because Marvel and DC have learned this head on, the hard way. You can't just convince people and sway their opinions to something that they're, just so far opposed to. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. Yeah. So yeah, you got to listen to your customer fan base. Elected officials, I find that interesting, and I actually do see a lot of similarities there between elected officials and social media influencing, because people have power, right? There's kind of a democracy involved in that. People are going to watch your channel if they like you. If they don't like you, they're not going to, right? And that's how the cookie crumbles. All right, next one. They all have direct lines to their audience and carefully listen to feedback. You say that like it's a bad thing. Okay, that's how they curate their content, trying to smooth things over with their leaders while failing to address the fans won't work. To win over CG, you must start from the ground up. See, now this is where he's kind of changed. Now it sounds like he is actually interested in winning over CG. I think this is a good idea. He's absolutely right here. When Donny Cates went on Ethan Van Sciver's show thinking that he could, you know, he could somehow go to Ethan and make Ethan make everyone like him or give him a stamp of approval or something. That's absurd. The fact that Donny Cates even thought that mattered is laughable, because at the end of the day, if you call people bigots and racists and so forth on Twitter, and then you expect another comic book professional, Ethan Van Sciver, to suddenly wave a magic wand and make everyone like you, you would be wrong. That's not how it's going to work. It's too big of a sale. It's outside the norm. So what you could do, you could do this. You could start by creating your own fan base, start making YouTube videos or whatever social media platform you want to work from, and start, finding an audience, people that have similar interests, people that are like-minded on some areas. That's what CG was. To me, that's all it's always been. You're going to have some overlap. People are going to disagree, of course. But generally speaking, they have these kinds of interests. So if you could find an audience like that, you ought to be listening to them, and you can influence just a little bit, like 2%. You're going to influence like a 2% decision. The other 98%, it's already decided. You're just finding the audience. They already agree on the 98%. You're just, the influencing part's like 2%. Addendum. Like I said, I posted this to help, not to start a fight. If you disagree with me on this, that's fine. Please try to remain civil with each other. All right, so there's a lot of fighting going on, apparently. So this is why Renfimus got upset. Poor thing. I don't know. People are losing their minds, I guess. Overall, I think at the end of the day, you should be listening to your customers. It's shocking to me that nobody in the comic book industry seems to understand. None of this is new. Social media influencing has been around for an awfully long time. Social media marketing has been around for an awfully long time. To just think that the whole Caesar thing is a joke. To think that you could actually go to somebody that's the king of ComicsGate and they're going to make, wave a magic wand and make it so everyone will just love and adore you. You're wrong. That's not how it works. It's not how it works at all. If you think that all you have to do is go after the audience and not influence them to purchase a product, you're also wrong. That doesn't work. And I've seen that happen too. So how does it work? I've said this a million times. You have to give way more than you ask. You're going to give 10 times. You're going to ask 1 time. Give content, give whatever you can, be a nice person, try to be helpful to people. And then when the time comes, you're going to ask if they can back your crowdfunding campaign. That's how it works. If that's too much work, sorry, you're out of luck. You're in the wrong business. You got to try something else. But currently right now, this is the only way I know. This is the only way apparently that anyone knows how to sell comics right now during a pandemic. So you either that's a tough pill to swallow, but you either got to swallow it and move forward to be happy about it, or learn to code. I don't know. Figure it out. In the meantime, I'm pretty happy with my decisions as far as comics go. Things are still moving forward. I'm really stoked. Again, this is one of the best times right now. So if, we also, we just passed 5,000 subscribers over the weekend. The channel's been growing again. It's been kind of flatlined for a while. We're growing. So great. So thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. Don't forget, if you're around, check out my live stream with Charlie Snokins. It's going to be on tonight. We're going to talk about his just jaw-dropping art. And he did do art on Jawbreakers as well. Really good dude. Amazing artist. I think you're going to hear a lot about Charlie Snokins. He's a superstar. And if you haven't backed Downcast yet, help us out. Help us get past $34,000 mark. And I'll see you next time.